Hello, you are welcome to Living a Full Life Forum. I'm Dr. Violet Kayom. Today we are discussing the topic Resilience Amidst the Storms of Life. Resilience amidst the storms of life. Storms of life are basically difficult times or the hardships that we go through while navigating our lives. And we have to know that the storms, they occur to everyone, young and old, men and women, girls, boys, to the rich, to the poor, to those in high social classes and to those in low social classes. So whether we want it or not, we have to know that in life we'll go through storms. And this is not to be a prophet of doom, but to just know and prepare beforehand. You see, when you go through a situation which you kind of like suspect or you are expecting, you may not be taken by surprise. Then you can prepare mentally and physically. So if you are pushed down unexpectedly, you can easily topple over and fall. But if you are expecting someone to push you anytime, then mentally you'll be prepared, but also physically you'll have the stamina to resist the push. And so that is why we have to know that resilience amidst the storm will play to our advantage a lot and make us actually stronger. I've sat many examinations and tests, in class. But all these years, I've never really gotten used to any examination. Just before an exam, there's always some degree of tension, some degree of stress that I go through. And storms are just like that. We can never really get used to it. But one thing we know is that when you pass an exam, it always leads to a promotion, either promotion in class or at workplace or whatever it is. So when we pass through a storm successfully and with the right attitude, it will lead us to a promotion in our mind, emotionally, or physically, or even socially. So sometimes it's better to just embrace these storms. And we have to know that at any one time in the entire universe, there is someone who is in the middle of a storm that is raging very much, or they've just come out of a storm, or they're just about to get into a storm. So this thing is real, and we are going to be strong amidst every storm that we go through. So some of the lessons I've learned through the storms of life is that number one lesson is that the storms enable you to know and acknowledge the vital aspects of your life. We live life with a lot of baggage. We carry so many things around us. The different programs we have to attend to, the meetings we have to be present in, the phone calls we have to go to make, the social gatherings we have to go to. So many things, and all these things put demands on us. And if we are not careful, we find that we are giving so much time and energy into extra baggages around us instead of focusing on the vital things. And sometimes we may not actually know how to separate, to sort out the things that actually do matter most and the things that don't. But when the storms of life come, when difficult times come, automatically the things that don't matter, they just fall off because you don't have the time and the energy to focus on those things. You go into survival mode. And so it helps us realize that actually life can go on without all these excess baggages in life. We spend so much energy attending to many things that don't actually matter. I remember when my little baby was admitted in hospital. At that point, I could not attend to the business. I couldn't attend to the company. I could not attend to my family. I had to be in the hospital. And all my focus at that point was in the hospital. And so I had to let go of many things that I thought were the center of my life. I had to let go of them. And when I came back, I realized that actually life had moved on even without me being there physically. I realized that the staff members had done the best they could to keep things moving, business going on. I realized that the home had moved, it hadn't collapsed just because I wasn't there. And it taught me a very important lesson that sometimes I think I am the center of everything. Sometimes I think that without us, things cannot move. But one thing we have to know that is that with or without you, life will move on. People will move on. And so it makes us learn to have time for ourselves, to have enough time for self-care. Well, knowing that there are things you can do, but there are many things also that others can do for you without you necessarily being there, and things will still be okay. Well, things may not be perfect, But you see, perfection is a myth in life. We do not have to chase for perfection. We just have to chase for the best that we can do, or the best that we can do. And so hard times, the storms of life, actually they do help us separate, the things that are pivotal in life away from the things that can actually wait for tomorrow, or the things that may not even be necessary. The second thing I've learned is that hard times actually make us vulnerable. They expose our vulnerability. And that may sound scary, because many times in life we want to be in control. But sometimes it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay not to have the answers in life. There are many things you may not know in life. And many times when hard times come, we do not actually know why they've come and how we can navigate them. And so it is important that we know the right questions to ask. Many times we want to ask questions like, why me and why now? Now, those are questions that are not helpful at all when you're going through a storm. And so it exposes our vulnerability, and I realize that I don't have to have the answers to everything I go through in life. Amidst the storm, I do not have to answer each and every question. My baby being admitted and all the investigations were revealing no disease. So everyone was confused. The child is sick and is obviously in pain, but every test that would come out was basically negative. And I remember a friend of mine called and asked me, so what is the diagnosis? And I say that we do not know. And she said, but you're a doctor, you should know, you must know. I said, but I do not know. And at that point, I realized my vulnerability, that I could not help much seeing my baby in bed, crying in pain, and yet I could not relieve the pain. And I reached my break point. And sometimes it's good to reach your break point. Many times we keep back tears for a long time and we try to be strong in situations. But at that point, I had to break down. And the tears that I shed at that point later on helped to really strengthen me. I felt some relief. I realized that it's okay for me to go one day at a time without even knowing what tomorrow holds. And that is, that life of faith that sometimes we just have to move in, so that we realize that sometimes we are actually not in control, and it is okay. It is just humane to be in that state. And the third thing is that when we go through storms of life, it leads to promotion many times. Just like the test I talked about, when you pass a test, it will lead you to the next level. So when we go through a difficult time, you find that the storms of life, they actually end up strengthening us internally, especially those storms that occur to things that are personal to you, the close relations, when there is sickness or financial hardship or strained social relationships. When those storms come that affect you directly, you find that they do a refining work which no other situation in life could ever do. Just like that metal that becomes stronger and stronger the more it goes through the refining process, when the impurities are removed as it goes through the heat of the refinery, just like that metal becomes very resilient and very strong, so do we become when we go through some of these storms of life. You see, in geography, we are taught that the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. But in life, it is not the case. Actually, the higher you go in life, in the ladders of life, the more pressures, the more heat, the more heated it becomes up there. And so if we are not refined, if we haven't gone through all these trials that would strengthen us and increase our resilience, it becomes difficult to keep up there. And so when these storms come, they actually do a lot in strengthening our character. One of the effects of the raging storms is strength of character. You develop that strength of character that will help you maneuver in those high positions in life. The second is that we become more emotionally stable. You're no longer swayed off by anything, any rubbish that is thrown at you. Because when you haven't yet gone through the hard times, you will pay attention to every single dog that is barking at you. But when you've gone through the hard times where your life has been put to test and you almost lost someone around you, you lost huge sums of money, you lost major relationships, you realize that you don't have to pay attention to every other, situation that puts itself along your path. You don't have to pay attention to every dog that barks or every little gossip that you listen to. You become more and more emotionally stable. Okay, and then of course it leads to personal maturity. Maturation in life, it comes no other way but through the hard times, through the difficult times that we go through. So there are some good things that we can actually pick out of the storms of life. So when we live in anticipation that anything may not go the way we want, then it makes us better at facing the storms that come. It's always nice to live in routines and everything going on cozy and rosy, but that is not a reality about life. Many times things will go to throw us out of our comfort zones, out of our routines, and we have to be ready for anything that may not go our way. Okay, so those are some of the lessons I've learned. Now, a few tips on how to navigate these hard times. When things are not going your way, when things are hard, when financially you've been strained, you've lost huge sums of money, you no longer have the paycheck coming in, when sickness is right at your door, of a loved one, or you're battling your own sickness, or when relationships are strained, or any other issues you're going through. There's some things that we can do so that we come out of the storm sound and strong and more resilient than ever. And we always have to know that that storm that you have gone through is preparing you for the next position, for the next level. It will actually promote you. And how you behave and how you manifest yourself in these times of the storm will enable you actually stand firm in the next level. It will determine how much you will move to the next level. Okay, so number one, when we are going through difficult times, we should acknowledge the storm, acknowledge the difficulties, acknowledge the hard time, and be ready to adapt, to the new normal life. You see, throwing you out of your comfort zone is something very, very annoying. It's very annoying. We want to maintain routines. We want to know that on Monday I do this, on Tuesday I do this, maybe at night I do this, in the evening I do this. But when times of storms come, it's just like we are in the battleground. Life cannot be, as usual. It cannot be like the civilian life. We have to put on our combatant, garments so that we can live now in an adapted way, to the new normal. Okay, so it helps us come out of this entitlement mentality. Okay, and then you acknowledge, it's not like you're agreeing with everything that you're going through, but you acknowledge that things are not easy. So I have to adjust. You have to adjust your life. I remember I always valued education, and I'm like, my children have to go through these levels of education. I have to go through these levels of education. But when the storms hit and my child couldn't go to school for a long time, I had no other way but to now adapt to the new normal and realize that I may want things this way, but things are not going the way I expect them to. So I'm not going to die in the storm, but I'm going to do the best I can do to make sure the situation remains within control. And we will go with whatever presents itself. Sometimes you just have to put down the sail of that ship and flow with the storm until the raging, quietens down, and then you can know what to do next. So going with the routines and whatever you can get your hand to do would be very important, but also adapting and letting go of, those valued routines that you had set before will help you a lot in navigating this system. The second thing is to live in gratitude. Living in gratitude is very important because despite the storm, there are many other things that are actually going on very well in your life. That actually your life may be an envy to many others. They may be looking at the finances that you have or the good health that you have, especially in a situation where your relationship is strained. Or there may be many other things that are going on well. that you may not pay attention to when you're being hit by that storm. But it's important for us to count our blessings and look at all those things that are going on well and be grateful about it. That also protects us from this life of entitlement. You know, when you've stayed for some time without going through a storm, you end up creating this world around yourself, like, you know, everything should go on well with you, and the hard times are for others. But that is a wrong mentality. And so when we live a life of gratitude, it helps us embrace the storm that is coming our way, you know, in a more gentle way, and not to be too hard on ourselves. Okay, so the storms have a tendency to seek attention. Hard times love attention. They love seeking your attention very much. They want you to focus on them. They want you to throw all your energy on them. But you should not feed those storms that way. So do not throw all your energy on the storm and all that. Make sure you reserve the energy to do your other routines and be grateful for other things moving around you. Then you'll be able to have the strength to face each day as it comes. Okay, so that is our second point. The third thing that we have to know is that when the storms come, we can actually learn to make them work to our advantage by not trying to understand the nitty-gritties of the storm. You do not have to understand each and everything about that storm for you to survive the storm. At this point, we need to ask wise questions. We need to ask questions like, what can I learn from this storm? What part of my character is being refined? You know, how can I survive the storm? Our energy should be bent on surviving the storm and not on questioning and trying to understand the storm. Because the more you try to understand the storm, the more it will actually become painful, and there will be so many unanswered questions. And so some questions are just not wise to ask amidst any storm. Questions like, why me? Why now? And how long will it be? We do not know how long it will be, but we can just reserve all the energy to see how we can survive amidst the storm. Okay, so that will help us really move on and be able to survive the storm. And the fourth and final thing is we need to keep hope alive. Keep hope alive amidst every storm. However deadly it may appear, it's important that you keep your hope alive. The moment the hope dies, your whole body and everything about you dies. But when your hope is alive, however difficult the situation is, even when it's a health situation, I'm telling you, you'll go through it graciously and you'll come out successful. I remember a friend of mine who said for her motto is, every time she's going through a hard time, she says that this too will pass. And so one day she was driving and then she bashed into this other vehicle and hit it. At that point, her blood pressure rose up and she thought she would faint any time. And she was just imagining how much money she would have to spend to repair her own vehicle and that other person and the legal implications. But the moment she started thinking about all these many things, she realized she was becoming more and more dizzy. Suddenly, she remembered her famous phrase that she was like, this too will pass. This too will pass. It will not stay on. Storms come and go, but tough people remain. And so when she thought about that and said it out, suddenly she got the strength to move on. So keeping our hope alive will give us the strength to move on amidst every storm. And so we have to know that we should always paint a good picture. We should have a vision of how things will actually end up being better. It may be a new normal, but it will be better than what you are now. And so keeping our hope alive is something very important. And let's always remember that a storm is just like a test. When we embrace it in the right way, with the right attitude, it will lead us to promotions. It will prepare us for the next phase in our lives. And the storms, they come to refine us so we can have the strength of character we need to face life, so we can have the emotional stability and the personal maturity, which we can get no other way but through these difficult times. And so I wish you all the best, and I pray that you will be positive amidst every difficult time you're going through, and you know that it doesn't come to crush you, it doesn't come to stay, it will go, but you will remain and you will fulfill your purpose in life, and nothing will be able to stop you from doing whatever God has called you to do. Thank you so much for paying attention and being part of Living a Full Life Forum. I ask you to please subscribe and share these nuggets of gold with your loved ones, and please do comment. Your comments always help us a lot to improve our content. Bless you. May you have a lovely day.